Welcome back. We're gonna react today to the Italian Mafia. Yes, we are. Don't talk. Nobody talk. I love Mafia histories. Alright, so no one talk, no one comment. Don't even like this video. Don't even subscribe. No one does. Just stop. Just stop. And let's just hear this out, alright?
Hey, 42 here. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to tell you about gangsters.
Gangsters! I love them.
Like it or not, Mafia mythology is murderously melded with the history of modern America.
Mafia mythology. That's what I like. I would love to get into it. Let's
To
go.
some, the mob represents an aspirational way of life, full of girls, guns, and glamour. But
Facts.
there is, of course, a much darker side. This is, after all, an organization that relies on fear to get what it wants, and is more likely to resolve disputes with a bullet behind the ear than a quiet word in it. Whatever your take on La Cosa Nostra, they've played an undeniable role in shaping our culture.
I didn't even know.
After all, which of us doesn't have a favourite mob movie? And who can't misquote a piece of iconic dialogue on command?
The Goodfellas.
See the opening of this video for an example.
But
where did it all begin, this obsession of ours? Well, when it comes to the extraordinary rise
New York. New York. Where I am at right now. Got a CP, can't say too much, but just know they're roaming the streets. They're waiting for their opportunity.
All of the mafia in America, it can all be traced back to the so-called five families. These powerful clans ran New
The Mancero family. Not saying now. Here we are. Not saying that we are, but
New York City for decades, making money from legitimate businesses whilst also profiting from illegal gambling, protection rackets, and contract murder.
Oh my God!
In doing so, they established a blueprint which would see organized crime spread across America and perhaps even have a hand in the death of a president. Trust me, if you think your family is bad, wait until you get a load of this lot.
Bro, these people
The origins of the Mafia can be traced back to the 18th century and the Italian island of Sicily.
Alright.
If Italy is a boot, Sicily is its amputated toe. Over the years, Sicily has been ruled by many different foreign invaders, everyone from the Romans to the French. But eventually, boot or no boot, the people grew sick and tired of being kicked about, and so they banded together. The groups they formed slowly evolved into private armies, who in time grew so powerful they could extort money from the very
I wanna talk to. I wish, and I hope me saying this can get there. I want to talk to a family member, cause they're still out there, but they might not do the activities now. But I know there's like the godson, or not the godson, the great grandson of this person, the great grandson, or the great grandson of this person, of this person, of this person. So I just want to talk to them, just like that. Just interview them basically, and just get a feel of that fear, because they're feared and respected. So
very landowners who were supposed to be controlling them. These armies became known as families, each of which had its own secret codes and ways of meting out rough justice. In the late 19th and early 20th...
I'm telling you, yeah, I'm obsessed with Mafia. What was it called? Mafia-thology. I'm obsessed with that, bro. Which one is that? Which one is Warren? Damn, I forgot one, but hopefully he says, though, it's a famous family, though. It is a famous family.
A great many Italians emigrated to the United States in search of a better life. This included a large number from Sicily, where poor economic and social conditions made the treacherous trip across the Atlantic seem like an attractive option.
It was New York.
Many of these new arrivals settled in New York, particularly a spot on the Lower East Side of Manhattan that came to be known as Little Italy. for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Of course, it wasn't long before criminals from the old country began to exploit this burgeoning immigrant population across the pond. The notorious 5 Points gang, founded by former boxer Paolo Vaccarelli, emerged in 1890.
Ooh, boxer. Paul Kelly. I believe I heard that.
Points gang, founded by former boxer Paolo Vaccarelli,
Paulo, aka Paul Kelly. Paul, the first Apollo, no, but I do remember seeing Paulie Kelly. So I don't know why he's aka Paulie Kelly, because I do remember that name, but not the his birth name, I guess.
Emerged in 1890 and terrorized New York for 30 years. Meanwhile, spawning gangsters who would go on to be some of the most feared crime bosses ever, including Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, and even old Scarface himself.
Starface, that's the dude I know. I know him. I know this guy in the middle. What was his name again?
Including Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel.
Bugsy, I know. I personally read about Bugsy, but I know Starface because of the movie.
And even old Scarface himself, Al Capone. In 1920, Prohibition.
Yo, Scarface, I'm telling you. Like now, I feel like now you can say his name, but I feel like back in the day you had to like address him for, like Scarface. Bro, it's so entertaining and so cool. It's so cool for me, bro. Like, it's so cool. Oh my God.
Hit America, and surprisingly, telling people they could no longer drink alcohol went down about as well as turning up to a high school fancy dress party as Jimmy Savile. The US government might have believed it was a brilliant idea, but the general public most certainly did not. And it was boom time for anyone who could supply bootleg booze. This was the iconic era of trench coats and Tommy guns, as upstanding crime.
Yo, bro, they were elegant, bro. Nowadays you don't see that. Nowadays you don't see that, but bro, they were elegant. The way they move. Yo, let me top my shit on this one, bro. This is I love this. They were elegant. The way they move, the way they portray themselves. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy. The way they portray themselves, like top tier. It was. I stepped in the room. Everyone was like feared. That's type shit. Like that was their goal. That was your goal as a gangster. Like you step in the room. Everybody just stops what they're doing, looks at you, and gets back. The heart stops. Everything stops. That right there. That's how you knew that you were like a gangster, bro. Top gangster right there. When you were elegant, Tommy guns and all that, like, bow. Like, I really like that. I really like the history of mafias and all that stuff. Even though, yes, it is like, there were deaths and all that stuff. It's just the whole package that you don't see nowadays. Nowadays, you just see raggedy people, right? I feel like the gangs should develop at least the suits, you know? You should be suited up. Not to lie. Suit yourself up, bro. I feel like if you get suited up, you'd be more respected.
Crime fighters like Elliot Ness battled the mob on the mean streets of New York and Chicago. Prohibition in the US coincided with the rise of fascism in Italy as Benito Mussolini came to power. Now, a tolerant attitude towards crime, or indeed anything really, is not in the brief of a dictator, and Mussolini came down hard on the Mafia, causing a large number of its members to head to America. This perfect storm of a major business opportunity and lots of new
That's one thing, go. They didn't call it crime, they call it business. Business. Go handle some business.
Recruits saw the American Mafia grow in size and strength throughout the 1920s. For the most part, a man by the name of Joe the Boss Masseria was running
Joe the Boss Masseria
things in those days. But a powerful Sicilian mafia don wanted to take over, so he sent his protege, Salvatore Maranzano, to make a big bid for power in the Big Apple. Maranzano gradually built up his own criminal empire before declaring all-out war on Miseria in 1930. For over a year, the two New York Mafia clans openly fought one another, with gang members on both sides guns down in the streets on a number of occasions. Eventually,
that part, like, I was like, it's just the way, I like the way they portray themselves, the way that they walk, the way how, when you stepped in the room, everybody was feared, the way that they talk, the codes, the, what else, I like, the elegancy that they had with themselves, the respect that they have with themselves, like, and it wasn't even a crime, it was business. Yes, for like the feds and all that stuff, it was crimes, but they made it sound and yo, go handle some business, you know.
On the 15th of April 1931, Masseria himself was killed in a restaurant by 4 gunmen. The person who'd arranged this mealtime murder was none other than his own right-hand man, Charles Lucky Luciano. Lucky was...
And they all had code names, bro. That's my favorite part. They should bring that back. They should bring at least that portion of it back. I want everybody to have code names, bro. Everybody should and should get code names.
He was a gangster to his very core. As a teenager, he cut his teeth in the 5 Points gang before making his fortune in bootlegging. And he got his nickname after surviving a knife attack that left him with a drooping eye and distinctive scars across his face. When Luciano realized the war was going badly, he just switched sides, betraying his boss on the condition that if Maranzano emerged victorious, Luciano himself would be made second in command.
That right there, when I said respect, that right there, like, was a big thing. Like, you come over here, I give you this. But I believe that he kills them. I believe so.
Upon winning, Maranzano promptly reorganized the mafia gangs of New York into the so-called 5 families. In a bid to consolidate his newfound power, he then named himself Capo di Capi, the boss of all the bosses. But this snazzy title didn't go down.
What is it? Capo di Capi. Ooh.
The boss of all the bosses. But this snazzy title didn't go down all that well with the heads of the 5 families. They already disliked Maranzano, who they saw as greedy, arrogant, and old-fashioned, and the attempted power grab proved to be the literal last nail in his coffin. 4 hitmen, posing as government agents, went to Maranzano's office, disarmed his bodyguards, then made sure that he too would be sleeping with the Fishers. Once again, it was Lucky Luciano who set up the hit.
Damn.
You know, I'm beginning to think that he can't be trusted at all.
Nah, it's the power. That's one thing. Even though there was loyalty, there was those rare there was those apples that wanted power, that really wanted like deep power, and not even publicly, because I bet Lucky had power on the radar. You know, like, yo, go ahead.
What's the world coming to when a mafia boss can't be taken at his word? Anyway, with both of the old school bosses now out of the way, it was time for the mafia modernizers to have their turn. Given that he'd so ably got rid of the 2 previous big dogs, it would have been reasonable to assume Lucky Luciano himself would take the throne and declare himself the new boss of bosses. But he didn't.
Yeah.
In fairness, having...
Low key, that is smart though. That is smart because, you know, with great power comes great responsibility and great bad people coming after you, bro, because they want that part. So
personally ordered the murders of the previous 2 incumbents, he knew all too well how dangerous it was to be the mafia's head honcho. So instead, he established something called the Commission. which was made up of 7 Mafia leaders, including the heads of all the 5 families, and would be responsible for overseeing the activities of the mob and mediating disputes between rival gangs. They met every 5...
Hey, that's the thing. You see, he messed up. Gangs or mafia nowadays are different.
years to iron out major problems and just generally put the organization into organized crime. Now, if there's one thing you don't expect from the Mafia, it's high-level admin. Putting horses' heads in people's beds, sure, we're all on board with that. But a HR department? That's just weird. With a solid structure in place and...
Oh my god. New York, they're all New York, bro. You just see... Oh, nah, never mind. Kansas, Dallas, New Orleans. Oh, wow. Denver. Oh, wow. I did not. Milwaukee. Oh, yeah, Milwaukee. Yeah, I know that. Springfield. Wow. I did not know that. Youngstown. Where is that? Youngstown. I didn't know that place. Where else? Providence. I know that. But I feel like they're all in New York, right? They're mostly in New York. California too? I thought California was run by gangsters, like gangs. Mostly like their whole lives over there, but I don't know. Tucson, right? That's Tucson.
War behind them for now, the 5 families started to move to a whole other level. But as alcohol was decriminalized once again, they needed to look for fresh new avenues to make money. The traditional money spinners like robbery, extortion, loan sharking, and money laundering all continued as normal, but it was time to diversify the family business. So they infiltrated the labor unions, which allowed them to establish themselves in industries like construction, trucking, and the career of choice of Tony Soprano, waste management. In the 1940s, the city of Las Vegas was starting its meteoric rise to become the greatest center of vice on God's green earth. Despite being on the opposite coast to the 5 families' traditional stomping grounds, the promise of profits proved too pretty to pass up. They bankrolled a number of casinos as Sin City swelled and would skim money from the huge sums of cash taken on the floors every night. A scam thought to have
I still believe in that. I don't care. I do not care. I have a strong belief that they're still running the casinos in depth.
Netted them hundreds of millions of dollars. For decades, it seemed as though the Mafia was untouchable. Their code of silence, known as omerta, meant that members were sworn to secrecy and forbidden to cooperate with police under fear of death.
Yes.
Infiltrating the families was practically impossible because allegiances often went back generations to the same small towns in Italy. The US government seemed woefully behind the curve as the mob continued to grow in both power and numbers. But then, slowly, law enforcement started to fight back. In 1950, a special committee was set up to investigate the existence of organized crime, and it held hearings in 14 cities across the country, including testimonies from over 600 witnesses. The hearings were televised at a time when TV was just starting to take off, and it was the first time most Americans had even heard anything about this shadowy organization, which semed to exert influence.
I heard that. I heard that in movies, bro. That's a lie. I learned about mafias in movies, and then like I just believed it, bro. I strongly believe it. Then I saw videos like these, like, okay, it's real.
Over huge swathes of their country.
If so, what are they? Paid by tax.
All of this attention was obviously bad news for the mob. But if the 50s started poorly for the Mafia, it was nothing compared to how it ended. In 1957, a meeting was arranged in the small town of Appalachian in upstate New York. It took place at the house of a man known as Joe the Barber. This coming together of the clans was a national Mafia meeting with more than 100 important crime bosses and assorted henchmen in attendance to discuss all kinds of nefarious activities and, one can only assume, have a bloody good catch-up whilst they were at it. The problem was that Appalachian was little more than a hamlet, the sort of place where big news would usually be the mum and pop store on Main Street running out of milk. So when numerous flash cars arrived and deposited large numbers of extremely well-dressed, severe-looking gentlemen in the middle of town, the local police force couldn't help but wonder just what the hell was going on. They raided the property, causing the highly unusual and not a little humiliating scene of dozens of gangsters running away to hide in the nearby woods. Amazingly, this shrub-based counterintelligence tactic didn't work, and 60 of them were arrested.
Damn.
Not only was this a very embarrassing incident for the Mafia, but it once again shed light on what was supposed to be a top-secret organization, although any sense of secrecy would completely evaporate just 2 years later. In 1959, a mobster called Joe Velacki was convicted of drug trafficking and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Whilst inside, he murdered a fellow inmate, a move that saw his sentence extended to life behind bars with no chance of parole. Clearly, the prospect of eating slop from a tray and trying really bloody hard not to drop his soap in the shower didn't thrill Velacki, because in 1963 he agreed to testify about his time in the mob. This was the first time a made man had ever taken the stand and publicly admitted the Mafia existed, let alone gone into details about its structure and activities.
Oh, shit. I think he died. I think like he came out that like he just
Velacki
died.
even went as far as to name many current and former gangsters, including bosses of the major families.
Wow.
Velacki's hearing was part of a crusade by Attorney General Robert Kennedy, who'd made it his personal mission to target organized crime. He did a brilliant job of it too, with mobster convictions rising 800% during his time in office. That's one of the reasons some people believe the Mafia played a major role in the assassination of his brother, President John F. Kennedy, in November 1963. Seismic though the killing of President Kennedy was, it couldn't stop the events that Velacki's confession had set in motion. Several laws were subsequently passed by Congress to give the FBI greater powers to tackle the Mafia head-on. The most groundbreaking being the so-called RICO Act of 1970.
Oh, that's when it started. Oh, that's when it started. I thought it started like now, just recently. But that's when it started, the RICO Act. I did not know that. Hey, man, blame them.
The act essentially made it illegal to be part of a, quote, ongoing criminal enterprise, regardless of whether or not...
So are gangs considered mafias? Like modern day mafias, I guess. I'm guessing, right? Like gangs are considered modern day, modern society, modern, because mafias, they did everything in silence, but nowadays they don't care. They do it in public. The gangs don't really care. But is it because they can't avoid it, or is it just they don't care? Because if they can't avoid it, then they are modern day mafias. But if they just don't care, I don't think they are. If they don't care, I don't think they are. But that's the question. Can they avoid the news? Can they avoid, like, videos? I feel like they can avoid videos, but they cannot avoid the news. Like, the news are to report them. Mandatory to report. Ooh. So, it is. So, like, if you think about it like that, gangs are mafias. Gangs are modern day mafia. I didn't even think about it. I thought it was just gangs, but in like technically modern day mafias. Wow. Oh shit. But I feel like I still even though like I'm starting to think of, like I still don't see as that. Like I feel like it's disrespectful calling them modern day mafia. I don't think there's gotta be another word for it. I don't think it's modern day, bro. There gotta be another word for it.
You were actually caught committing any crimes. That made it significantly easier to convict known mobsters. But more importantly, it suddenly made it possible to go after mob bosses who were unlikely to ever get directly involved in the dirty work their organizations were built on. The thinking was that this would mean more convictions and longer sentences. And boy, did it work. The man at the spearhead of this revolution was US Attorney Rudy Giuliani, and he wasted no time wreaking RICO havoc. In 1985, he brought the heads of 3 of the 5 families to trial using the RICO statute in what was dubbed the case of cases. And it turned out to be a case of Giuliani 1, 5 families 0, as all 3 mob bosses were sentenced to 100 years in prison.
Wow.
It set a precedent for the next 30 years, with Mafia bosses frequently given major jail time when brought to court as part of a RICO investigation. And as surveillance became more sophisticated, the FBI also increasingly used wiretaps to ensnare mobsters. Faced with huge sentences and often having incriminated them.
Can we go back to mafias? Like, that's the thing. We can't go back. We cannot go back to this. So they are. Gangs are modern day mafias. They just developed the gangs. I don't know why they use the word gang, but. So they are. If you really think about it, they are. I never thought about that. Like, they're modern day mafias. They have a leadership. I believe they have a leadership. Because that's also another thing. Mafias had a leadership, and that's like a part of the word, I guess. Like, that's part of it. So I believe gangs do have leadership. They have leadership, right? They do have respect within their gangs. They do have sign language, like their own language, their own hand signs or whatever. Ooh. So why do they use the word gang? If is mafia like banned? Like, is the word mafia banned? Like, that's my thing. Why do they use the word gang? Gangs and not mafias.
Themselves on tape anyway, more and more gangsters conveniently forgot about their oath of silence and happily sang.
Does it come? There you go. Does it come from gangsters? You know, to shorten it the word, and then like they're all gangsters, so they're like a gang. I don't think that's right though. I feel like we should just go back to the word mafia. It's just cooler.
Like canaries in order to spend less time behind bars. Even those in the Mafia who seemed untouchable were eventually, well, touched. John Gotti was nicknamed the Teflon Don because nothing ever seemed to stick to him, a flashy dresser who actively courted publicity. When he took over as head of the Gambino family in the mid-80s, it was the richest of the 5 families, with an annual income of $500 million. This after years as the most flamboyant and famous gangster in New York, his best friend and underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, testified against him.
Damn.
And in 1992, Gotti was sent to prison for life, with no possibility of parole.
Wow.
He died in jail in 2002. With the balance of power having now tipped firmly in the favour of the federal government, the influence of the Mafia continued to dwindle, and the decline was only compounded by increased competition from other gangs, including the Russian Mafia. Same name, furrier hats. But that doesn't mean that America is now Cosa Nostra free. In fact, far from it. The attacks on 9/11 saw a huge switch in the FBI's focus from organised crime to terrorism, with some Mafia task forces dropping from around 400 agents to as few as 20, which inevitably gave the Mafia more room to breathe. As recently as 2019, the FBI estimated that there were still as many as 3,000 active members.
Oh shit! I told you, they're still there. They're still here, and people don't believe me. They're still here. They're still here. That's what I'm saying. Can I please, please interview you guys? You could I don't gotta show you on camera. It could only show me, and just I put a deep voice on you and all that, bro. Honestly, like, can I interview y'all? Like, that shit would be so cool, dog. An interview. But I do want your pops or something like to not be like to have some part of the old version, right? You're like a descent. What's the word? You're like the What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? You're like you're actually blood family member of the old mafias. So I could learn like what has your dad told you? What about this? What about that? So yeah.
The Mafia in the US.
Oh shit.
And the legendary 5 families continue to operate
Oh what?
to this day.
What?
So whilst it's fair to say that
Wait. Please. Now that I know this, please, if they're still operating, yo, I'm looking outside right now, bro. Yo, I believe that there are where I'm at right now, where I live. I believe they are, because it's unknown. This place is unknown. Like, you tell someone that you're from like this area, and you're like, what? Where's that? So I feel like they're here. But where is here? I don't know.
the glory days of the American Mafia are far behind them, when it comes to the mob, only a fool would say that you should forget about it.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
I don't think you should. I don't think no one should ever forget about it. You got to remember it. Look, Mafia. Oh, how the New York Mafia actually work. Alright, like and subscribe. If you're a fan of like mythology, I believe he said, man, subscribe and like, cause I am. I love the story behind it. Even though there was a lot of death, yes, I understand that, but I just love the art, the story behind it, and I wish I could learn more and sit down with them. Not a lot. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool if I could sit down with you, gang, and just chop it up on camera and off camera too. I just love the history. That's the word. I love the history around the mafias. All right.